Okay, we'll call this January 30th Lisle Township meeting to order. And start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And can we have a roll call, Clerk Powlitz?
Sure. Supervisor Hewitt,
Here?
Trustee Page,
Yes, here.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson
Yes, sir.
and Assessor Trowbridge. Highway Commissioner Young
Here.
and here myself. Is Autumn's online?
I'm here, present,
Trustee Geist,
present.
great. And then who else is online? There is Ahia Olson and Howie Hootman. And then in the audience, you can say your name.
Ladies first.
Claire Goldenberg. Sandra Patterson.
Doug hello.
And there's a sign in right on the side, if you wouldn't mind signing in, that would be great. And Attorney Rebecca.
That I am. Okay, and we're in the future moving public and right now moving public comment to the end. Right before the adjournment, and we're able to move that as part of the agenda without any problems. Okay, then, moving on to the public hearing of the budget and amended appropriation ordinance of Lisle Township, Lisle ordinance.
Can I make it?
And so the public comment is going to be at the end.
But it's on your agenda, it's number 3.
I agree.
You can adjust the chair can adjust the agenda during the meeting.
Thank you. And we're
What was the purpose of that?
adjusting because that's how we're doing it. And so part of this is that it's not a public interplay between the board and the public. So public comment is at the end. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4. We're going through the hearing of the amended appropriation. And so moving forward, we're going again through this line item by line item, helping everybody to understand where we're at.
Can we, before you do the presentation, is there a motion to open the hearing on the 2022-23 amended budget and appropriations?
I'll make a motion to open the hearing for the amended budget appropriation.
I will second.
Thank you, trustee Page and trustee McGovern.
Sorry to interrupt.
Any discussion on that motion to open the hearing?
I was just gonna say, do they know that they can speak to the budget because this is a public hearing?
So,
Go.
okay. So again, we're discussing this. Any other discussion? Okay, and then a roll call on the motion to move to the public hearing.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Geist?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes. Great. Well, our goal in this in this amended budget is to make sure that we're very accurate in our reporting of the funds and everything that we're doing to the township people. And so having the benefit of our accountant services, we've been able to get to a more accurate understanding of all of our accounts. And so on this first page, we're going over the income side of the of our budget. And so on the income side, we previously had estimated 3,000 in interest on investments. We understand that we have 97,000 more to add to this, to about 100,000. We're working to make sure that the interest in all of our accounts and the money that we currently have is being grown at the rate that we can judiciously grow it at. The personal property tax, we needed to add a 65,000 to make sure that we are properly understanding where our personal property tax income is. 47,000 was adjusted off of the tax town fund. With refunds and recoveries, we are at estimating that we're needing to add in 40,000. With the passport execution fee, we are having more passports than we had previously anticipated. And so we are adding in 3,000 into that income. With
Refunds
our,
and recovery? Why do you think that's gonna go so much? You got 6,000 here today.
yes, and so in the first month of January, I'm pretty positive that we've made over $2,000 in just this 1 month. And how we did that was because we cross-trained our staff at a rate that we've been looking forward to. And we also are anticipating spring break. And so the really great thing is that people have been calling us, planning their spring break plans. And so we,
Line above that. Refunds and recovery.
so refunds and recoveries, the great thing, so you had, I thought you said about passports, so refunds and recoveries. We've had some really great grants. And so just in refunds and recoveries, which is again, 50,000 is where we're adjusting it to. We had one grant for 25,000 for the food pantry from ARPA. We had another grant for 36,000. And that was again for ARPA, which we have received.
You've received those?
Yes.
I have a comment.
So this is where I go through, and then we're gonna go through where we ask each of the trustees for their comments, and then we
It's
have a public
meeting, we're
comment.
not allowed to talk.
And so here's the really great thing about a public meeting is that we need to have this be orderly. And so first person that gets to present in this hearing is myself, and then we're gonna come back through, make sure that all the trustees and all the elected people have time to comment. And then, of course, with the hearing, we'll have a time for the public to comment.
But I'm not sure where your starting point is correct. That's my problem.
Okay, and so I think that we've had this checked over several times with our accountant. And we
Can I ask
You're-
where you got your figures from?
okay, so again, we're gonna go through how the meeting is gonna be run is that I'm gonna explain this amended budget. And then I'm gonna go through each of the different trustees. And then we're
Can
gonna
I
go
ask
through the
trustees if
public.
They got my email.
Okay, so again, we're gonna keep going through here and we're adding on 87,900, understanding that our income is different than what we had anticipated. And so we have 87,900 more dollars than anticipated, keeping going down. We're not changing anything in the supervisor in any of the elected people's budgets. As we understand, our telephone bill is, we've needed to add on about $1,000 more. The main place where we are adding on is in the capital improvements. As we've motioned and spoken about before, the county is requiring us to fully fund our capital improvement project in order to have any ARPA funds. We had a meeting with the county, some of the county planners and Linda, our accountant. And we went through making sure that we're on target to meet the requirements that the county has. And they do believe that we are on target to get a grant for $500,000, which is a very large segment of a capital fund. As we're going down through here, we believe that there's an adjustment needed to IMRF in 10-1406. Then as we're continuing down, we're making sure that there's enough money for the various pieces that are going to be needed for the bridge that's going to be needed to the county for the Tyler system. In the administration budget in 10-1600, what the needs and the increases were due to making sure that we have the finances for the NIU expansion study, the governmental study, which we approved in the fall of last year. We also need to make sure that we have our best practices created and enabled by our accountant, Linda. We also are making sure that we have enough money for the human resources that we've needed to create best practices and standards and recruit our staff. And as we're going down, we're adjusting and making sure that we have enough for office supplies, for printing and publishing, making sure that we have enough for 2 mailers, for the advertising that we need to have to advertise the new transportation piece that's going to be coming out within the next month. We're looking at having needed to improve our technological needs, which is why we needed 10,000 for the computer. We do, and we have been doing an inventory of our computers, and we did find a copy machine and scanner that we can make sure that the gets installed for the clerk. We can also make sure that if she needs any furniture that we can, we have a new program that we're working with Scarce to reuse furniture. And so if you have a need for desk furniture, whatever, not, just let us know what exactly you need and we'll make sure that you get that
That would be great.
at a very fiscally conservative and responsible rate. And so then as we're going down here, we have understood that we needed to take off 30,000 for our IMRF and 20,000 for our FICA. Where our workers' comp has been accrued from, again, making sure that we have the understanding, since we're 2 months away from ending this fiscal year, that we're ready to have the money that we need, and making sure that we're closer than we were. When it comes to group insurance, that's the exact same thing. We're adjusting for where we're at with the understanding of how many people we have employed and where our insurance needs are. With mosquito control, as we have understood, our previous contract last year was in previous years was for 51,000. So we have succeeded in saving 46,000 in that area alone. But we realized that in the next few months, we're not going to have a mosquito need. So we're going to adjusting closer to that need. When it comes to the transportation system, we realized that PACE's, we're getting a closer understanding of where PACE's billing is. They generally bill about 4 months in the rears. And so understanding the 3-month cycle and how they're doing that, there's been some adjustments with the pandemic and not having the demand as we previously had. But this is closer to a more a realistic understanding of where we're at. With the community and career center, this is making sure that we have the finances to create the partnership that we're looking to do for the township and the people. The Career and Community Center is an absolutely wonderful center that focuses on job search mode. And I know Trustee Geis has mentioned that she had done some research into them as well. And then when it comes to the main piece to note is that when you look at this budgetary difference, we're looking at $1,274,000 difference. And that really goes back up to the $1,603,000 that we're fully funding for the capital improvement project. And so we needed to, of course, and we've been talking about this for some time, adjust the various pieces of general assistance to be more accurate and to fully fund it in the way that needs to be done. And so rental assistance was the piece that really needed the improvement. The reason why is because in the past, we were only giving not even a full month's rent when somebody needed help once a year if it wasn't needed. So at the very most, we were giving $750, which didn't even cover a full month's rent. And people weren't even getting that if they couldn't have the other part matched to cover a full month's rent. In the end, again, we're seeing a total appropriations difference, an amended version of $1,484,560. And again, when we look at up at the capital improvement project, that's 1,603,000. So our main differences are gonna be really seeing and getting a more accurate understanding of where the next 2 months spending already is at. And where in understanding that we needed to fully fund this capital improvements program. Okay, so we'll go around in a circle from the elected officials who have all had several invitations and have all taken the wonderful opportunity to meet with the accountant and our attorney to make sure that all questions were answered and whatnot. So we'll start with trustee Geist, who's online.
You want to know what questions I have?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I thought all the questions that I had this morning were answered. I did come up with a question later today. The architect, is there a reason why we would have to complete that in a lump? Can that be broken into payments?
No, go ahead. It will be broken into payments.
Okay.
Part of the,
Are we on the budget?
yeah, I was just gonna tell her what line
No,
item
we're
it
on the budget.
was. So it's part of the capital improvement line item.
Oh, I understand. I wasn't questioning where it was coming from. I was asking, it looked like it needed to be completed in one lump. So I was asking if that was something that we were going to make in payments, or were we just doing that straight 30K out?
No, but when we get to that resolution, I can explain the contract in more detail, but
Okay, we can wait till then.
yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions right now.
Okay, thank you, trustee Geist. And then we'll start with trustee Page.
Everything I had was answered earlier today.
Okay, thank you, trustee
you.
Page. Trustee McGovern.
I no longer have any further questions, but just thinking about how this will be posted to the website and just for great understanding for our citizens. I would like a footnote maybe on the grant monies we've received. I think we should celebrate it and it should be shown, maybe reflected, footnoted, or at least an explanation of, this is not just tax levy, property tax, there are grant funds in here as well.
Thank you for reminding everyone and about that. Totally agree. Thank you, trustee McGovern. And then anything else, trustee?
No, I just thank
Robinson?
you for the opportunity to meet this morning. I went through every line item against the expenditures from the January 11th statement, and all the questions I have were addressed. So I appreciate all the time and everything put into spend with us this morning and for today.
Thank you, trustee Robinson. And then assessor Crowbridge.
Yes, I sent you a list on Friday of amendments to the budget that we had. And I would like to have those incorporated into this.
Okay, and so when it comes to those, we all have, we've been meeting with Assessor Trowbridge and trying to come up with a closer understanding. And so that's where there needs, I guess, some more discussion on this. And so when it came to those amendments, we were looking at if we were to go through 10,
Go line item by line item, that's fine.
okay,
I'm asking for, let's start by what originally has been happening over the years. We generally we have a budget that we go through. And if the line items aren't that significantly off, what they do is a true up, or they do a line item transfer at the end of the year. It's been accepted by our accountants and our auditors over the years. So this is something that, unless we're making major changes, this is not something that we normally do. So I would just ask you to leave my portion of the budget alone. Okay, however, I had an opportunity to go through and try to refine my budget a little bit more, and I was able to take out about $7,000 by making some various adjustments. And specifically, 1401, I was going up from 25,000 to 30,000 because we're gonna be hiring a temporary employee for the quadrennial. 1403, we were going up from 4,000 to 5,000 for an additional supplies that we're gonna be incurring during the quadrennial. 1404, we were going down 65,000 for the loss of ERI. 1407, we were going up to 4,000 for copiers and scanners that we're going to be incurring. 1412, we're going up 1,000 for mileage increases that the federal that we have to pay out for our employees. 1416, we're anticipating $21,000 more in legal fees. 1417, we're going up about $4,000 for a phone system change. And 1418, we're going up 15,000 for the county system changeover. The last thing is our FICA, we're going from 35 to 42,000 for salary. The net effect of that is about a $7,000 reduction from what our original budget is, and I think that's an acceptable request coming through, and our portion of the budget is actually going down.
And so, going through this,
So I guess I don't think I got everything that you just mentioned, and I didn't get your email. I just want to make sure that when it comes time to vote, I want to make sure that we're voting on accurate. Do you have that list handy?
well, this is.
John, while you're gathering, can I ask what ERI is?
Early retirement initiative.
Thank you.
This is, oh, no, that would be much easier. Thank you.
The concept behind the ERI is that the township can prove that they save money by retiring the higher salaried employees by hiring newer, younger people at lower salaries, that there's a savings to the township. That's the whole concept behind it. It only works is if there's a savings to the taxpayers.
Which the township can't insure. And it's a practice that's traditionally not done anymore.
It's hard to find employees.
I didn't hear that one. Said you were saying.
It's a practice that's not traditionally done anymore. In
Why
the,
not?
because in the end, we end up paying more because we end up not being able to control the rate of which, for example, if we were to pass the ERI, anyone in the township could take that. And meaning and we couldn't control the rate of being hired at whatever salary. So in the end, townships traditionally don't do it anymore. It's been pretty much phased out of townships.
I don't know that to be true. The whole concept behind it is we actually have to put what we've done in the past, and we've done this multiple times over my tenure, is we actually put spreadsheets together and we show what the salaries are, what the benefits are, what the savings are, and then we run them through versus what the cost is. And if there's no savings, the township, cannot enact the ERI. It has to be a document and a submission, and it's been done by not only the assessor's office, the supervisor's office, but the highway commissioner's office. And if we can't show and demonstrate that there's a savings in the township, the IMRF will not engage ERI.
And our auditor told us not to do it as well. Several times. Any which way. And so.
So I guess
I gotta ask you, who is our auditor?
Fine. Klein and our former auditor, who is no longer our auditor, who's Scott Densler.
And he told you not to, based on what? I'm just,
He said that townships don't do this anymore. And we had the numbers run, we made this decision in the summer of 2021. So this has been visited before. There's a variety of different pieces that we could go through, if we're gonna go line by line. And as we've been discussing, if we need to keep going with this, we've had several meetings with the accountant, Linda, and with Assessor Trowbridge and Urbana. And so when it comes to line item 101401 with the assessors temporary employees, we are spending about 2,000 a month with independent contractors with projected year of 21,114. So are you, I mean, we could go through this, but we're trying to get to a more accurate number of.
yes, and I'm in that, as I said, when I into the requested figure, we're anticipating hiring an additional temporary employee.
Okay, then line item 101404, the IMRF rate for 2022 is 10.98 of payroll, and 2023 is 6.53 of payroll. You've budgeted 535,600 in payroll, and your projected is under 500,000. If we take his budget, your budgeted payroll multiplied by 10.98, it's just under 59,000. So that brings your needs down to 75,000. He needs to bring down 75,000 to 60,000.
Did you incorporate the salary increases that were put through?
And so I'm not the accountant, but I
So
assume
I'm
that she is.
suggesting that the number that we have here, I'm suggesting this. Either we leave my budget alone. Because I'm not having any problems with my budget. My budget hasn't changed. My budget hasn't changed in about 4 or 5 years. I'm asking you to either leave it alone. Or if you'd like to make a change, I put through and I've made recommendations based on what I'm anticipating as expenses to come through. And I'm saving the time. I believe that I can save the township an additional $7,000. I believe scraping $65,000 out of my budget is unreasonable, absolutely unreasonable. And when you turn around and take and look at what the difference is, what the increases are in the supervisor's portion versus the scraping away of every dollar that I have to where I'm not going to be able to make budget, I think that is unreasonable. If you want to do something else, I'm not going to tell you as trustees what to do, but going through and scraping through my budget and scraping out everything that I have to where I'm not going to be able to make it, I believe is unreal. It's unacceptable. And I think that you should make a decision one way or the other as to how to go through this. As I said, I gave you what my requests were, my original, what my revised were. I gave you explanations of exactly why I thought these numbers should change. They said that they weren't going to accept ERI. I took the ERI out of it. I put back other things that we have that I think are acceptable expenses and explained why I think that they have to be there. And either you leave them alone, leave my numbers alone, or come back and take the numbers that I'm proposing.
So again, we're trying to, and we've been meeting with the accountant and with the attorney here to make sure that we're getting to a more accurate understanding of where we are at in the next 2 months, making sure that we're able to correctly adjust the budget so that we're, again, meeting the implications that we cannot have more than a 10% variance per line item. And so in knowing that we're about 2 months from the end of the fiscal year, we're closing in on those numbers. And so we're needing to make sure that we're accurately reflecting those pieces. Is there anything that I'm missing, Attorney Wysocki?
You can't adjust the line item by more than 10%.
So after we do this amendment and here, this amendment, we can adjust a line item by 10% without doing the entire notice and hearing again. So the 10% is the limit to what.
It's got nothing to do with the discussion. We're in. Does it? don't know.
if we are off by 10, any of these
Anything
items, any
lower
of,
than 10%.
then we have to come back and amend the budget again.
And I'm telling you that the budget that I have set forth, that was presented, that did not have the problems and did not have to be reviewed, none of the line items, in my opinion, would have to have been adjusted. And I'm by more than 10%. But if you're asking me to make adjustments now, I'm trying to refine this to the best of my ability. I'm saving taxpayers an additional $7,000. But I've got to be very honest. Scraping $65,000 out of a budget, it's scraping almost 10% out of a budget, out of my end of my budget. So it enhances the other side of the budget. I think is outrageous.
Who would know his business better than him? The accountant, the lawyer, you?
So again, we're more accurately reflecting the money that we're spending in the next 2 months.
May I ask a question? This is Trustee Geist. May I ask a question? Tax Assessor Trowbridge, I have a question for you. Does your budget allow for if you decide to increase staff at all? You know how we have found that maybe there's some opportunities to increase our staff. Have you allotted for that in your budget, that if you do decide that you wanted to hire a person, would this negate you being able to do that?
The adjustment, what they put forth, yes. What I put forth, no.
Supervisor Hewitt, is there a way for us to, in the budget amendment, to not touch the tax assessor's budget? Is there a way to, because I know.
So again, what we've been trying to do is we've had 3 separate meetings to make sure that we're getting closer to a more accurate understanding of where we're at with the assessor's budget, with really everything in the township. And my guess is in the past, you probably didn't have a meeting with an accountant and an attorney to make sure that we're closer to those numbers. So I know this is a new experience for everyone. But we're trying to make sure that we're doing this as accurately as we can be. And so Attorney Wysocki, do you believe that we should that there's,
I guess I want, Trowbridge has been very diligent and responsible with taxpayers' dollars for a couple decades now, feels like. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to move forward with the other changes that we've already discussed and we understand, and not touch his budget and still be effective, because the dollar amount that we're talking about shouldn't impact the supervisor's budget that dramatically. I'm just asking, is that possible? Is it possible? Because we all want to move forward with this amended budget, but he does raise a good point. And I would not want to put the tax assessor's office in a different situation than we've been able to be in, where we've been able to hire people and we've been able to grow and we've been able to take advantage of that. And then we're putting him in a position where he might not have that option.
I thoroughly understand that, being without having the ability to have the infrastructure in place, we were able and we needed to grow in the way that we've needed to grow with a very different mandate. So
I agree, but we still did it. We still went, and we recognized that you saw opportunities to increase and improve the services to our taxpayers. And so we have increased the staffing needs to fulfill those needs.
So I'll ask the attorney.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand. Okay, go ahead.
So I'll ask the attorney Wysocki, what are our choices here with regards to this current budget that we're looking at?
Well, I mean, we can either, I mean. So the document that's been circulated and notice for the hearing, we're doing the hearing now. It's not final until the board says it's final. So if we need to make changes, either based on the assessor's comments or other comments that we hear tonight, then I would recommend just to make sure that we don't have any errors, that we table this item to the 8th, which is our next meeting, 10 days away. And then the spreadsheet can be fixed, or changed. I guess I'm leery about doing it on the fly during the
Yes.
meeting.
We're still good on time.
Well, what can I just ask what the other, what are the other trustees' thoughts on this? I mean, I'm one voice, so I'm just curious.
About the core, my goal of, my job as a trustee is to protect the assessor. I mean, that's where our money is coming from to work with.
Mhm.
So if we're not giving him enough to work with and something's falling behind, then I think that would be a domino effect. So I'm glad you raised the point now, and I think we should look into.
And we've had 3 meetings on this, and so we can go for a 4th,
Mhm.
and we can bring all the trustees in as well, one by one. If we can set up some times for this, that'd be really helpful since we're all here and we can make those meetings.
We're
I know
all here,
it's-
right?
I don't know that I need a meeting, Supervisor Hewitt. I think that he's raised some very good, he's raised a good point, and it's something I didn't think about. The position we would be putting him in, and Trustee McGovern is completely accurate. We do have a responsibility really to apply some due diligence to his funding.
Thoroughly agree, trustee Geis, but here's where we're at, is that we're going to need to, if we're going to be making a bunch of financial changes, and again, making sure that everything is done properly, we're going to need our accountant to do that. And so
That's fine. And I don't know that we have to make a bunch of changes. I think we just we don't change his budget. I think that's what he's requesting.
And again, we're gonna need to have another discussion with our accountant, and we can schedule that meeting. And make sure that that happens before the next meeting on the 8th.
Trustee guys, I would like to make a comment as it relates to this. You as the trustees are the people who are approving this budget. You are the people who are making the determinations of whether this is to be accepted or rejected. I'll be honest with you, I am uncomfortable. I am very uncomfortable sitting down at a meeting with our attorney and our accountant coming at me from different angles and suggesting based on their calculations, without asking me how my numbers blend together, how my forecasts work. And you have the power as your vote to accept the numbers that I've proposed or accept my original numbers. And it's, the numbers are very clear. We've gone through here. I'm very uncomfortable, and I will not sit down with another meeting with an attorney and an accountant that don't know what I do and don't know what my budget is, don't know what my costs are, don't know what the recurring costs are and what my fixed costs are. That's just, to me, that's unacceptable. But I'm happy to talk to you about them, but I'm not at all comfortable going into a private meeting with other people and then trying to come out with some type of a solution. Because to be honest with you, I went and I sat down at this table with some of the people here, and I made some recommendations to them. I talked to them about it. And the numbers that are here aren't reflective of what we talked about. And I have a very big concern with that. I'm asking you tonight that either you accept my numbers or withdraw or don't change my numbers, because there's nothing wrong with the numbers that I put through. I went through a second time and revised them so I could wind up saving and, saving the taxpayers an additional $7,000. I'm happy to do that. But going further than that, I'm asking that the board make a decision on this.
So we're talking about 2 more months of the year, right? And I mean, obviously the big is the IMRF and that's Assessor Trowbridge and said he's prepared to reduce that number. He's increased some other ones because he said he has some other activities that he wants to get done in the next 2 months. I appreciate that. I think part of it is, I would accept the changes he proposed, but then as we go to the budget for next year, look at what the actuals have been and what the plan is for next year as well, right? I know it's a $7,000 savings. I know we were looking for a larger savings. That seems like a way to move forward. I'm not sure how that's going to impact the overall budget. So,
Trustee Robinson, what were you looking,
sorry, I didn't get the whole question.
sorry, trustee Robinson, what, could you clarify what you meant by we were looking for more of an overall savings from the assessor's office? Has there been some identified problem?
Not that I know. I mean, I just look at what's been spent and what's been spent in 9 months or almost 10 months, or I guess 9.5 months versus what is remaining in budget.
Right, so what kind of savings would you be looking for that you mentioned that you were looking for a greater savings, so what were you looking for?
Just look at all the different budget lines. I mean, there's, $6,000-7,000 in travel, and maybe that'll be done. Significant increase in the legal and assessor, so I'm not quite sure what that is. So just each budget line looks like there's opportunities to save some money.
But without, have you met with, because
No, I haven't. So what I've looked at is just what the spend have been for 9.5 months, right? Versus what is anticipated to spend for the next 2.5 months. So that's what I was going by.
I'm going to take the time to meet with him because I think that if we don't, how can we say, I can't say he can cut more when I don't even understand how he's spending his dollars. So I'm just trying to understand how you, particularly, in the position that you're in, if you haven't had that conversation with him, how do you come to that decision?
I didn't come to a decision. It was an observation. It's based on the numbers. So
No, you said that he could have saved more money. I'm just trying to understand, where does that come from? I can't make a blanket statement like that because I don't even know. So I just thought maybe you knew something we didn't know.
Nope.
So what he was looking at is is the cost as to right now, what has been spent year to date. And so when you look at some of those pieces, so it sounds like that there's a discussion to be had, at least in the next 9 days, in which those discussions can be had. Any other discussion, Assessor Trowbridge?
I'm going to reiterate my position one last time.
Okay.
Supervisor Hewitt, just so I understand what this process looks like. So we have the opportunity to schedule time to meet with Tax Assessor Trowbridge, right? So that we can understand what his goals are, look at his proposed budget in comparison to what you guys have diligently put together. Then we would come back to the meeting on the 8th, and we would then vote to keep his proposed budget in place and then still have to vote again on the amended budget. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I understand the timeline.
You're not.
Yeah, so I don't think that's gonna work. So I think that, right now everyone's in the room. It probably behooves us to discuss whether or not, the assessor has given us 2 options. There's a third option, which is what is written in the amended budget document right now. So it sounds to me that there's 3 options. I think that staff, meaning me and the accountant, need some direction from the board. And then my only caveat is that I just want to make sure that the totals and everything add up. So I would ask that that the board make a decision on what these line items are, and then I can take that back, put it into the spreadsheet and make sure everything is hunky-dory before we vote on the final document on the 8th.
I'd like to hear from Trustee Page.
Can I ask one question?
That's
Can we,
fine, Trustee.
is it legal to separate the budgets?
You need 1 budget document. So if you want to pull out certain line items and put them,
It's just gonna
categorize
cluster.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
it's just
But
makes it
you
easier
need-
for comparison purposes, if that's what.
That's
you're
fine. I mean,
concerned
it's
about.
all, right now it's all lumped together in, the 1400. So I mean, that's all the assessor stuff. But, I mean, you can certainly create a subcategory and do that, but you do need it all in
Change
the
one
one.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to just hear what each of the trustees think, because I value each of their opinions, so. I don't want us to be going against the grain on this, that's why I'd like to know. What do you think, trustee Page, like, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I would like to see a compromise here. I'm speaking with the accountant earlier today. We were told that the IMRF is 6.7. Is that correct?
So when it comes to the IMRF issue, the rate for 2022 was 10.98 payroll. In 2023 is 6.53 a payroll. Right now it's budgeted at 535,600 in payroll, and his projected payroll is just under 500,000. Even if we take his budgeted payroll and multiply by 10.98, it's just under 59,000.
But okay, so, all right, is there a reason why we need to take from his budget? Is there a shortfall? Is there a shortfall that cut is going to fill? Is there some other way to find those? I'm just trying to understand why. Because I know, I felt like it was really clear to me earlier today, but now that he's spoken, I'm thinking we need to revisit this. And I'm with trustee McGovern. If there's a way to just pull him out completely so that he has his own segment, I think that would probably make the most sense, because how do we qualify making any adjustments to a budget that we don't have any management over?
Here's the thing, you do have management over it. That's what we're doing right now, is we're
Right.
approving the budget.
I mean, as far as actually signing the checks, Supervisor Hewitt, I mean, like, I need to sit down and I need to talk to him. I need that time, I think. And but I want to know what the timeline is, because I don't want to drag this out too far. Obviously, we need to get this done, but I think that we need to, in fairness to him, give him that opportunity to present his proposed budget. Is that something he can do now? Is that what? I don't know. That's why I don't know the protocol.
And so there's, this is what we've been trying to discuss, is whether you wish, in the board wishes to table this until February 8th and go through, but if we want to go through line item by line item, I have notes as to what the issues from the accountant's perspective is. The accountant will be there on the 8th.
Trustee Geis, I think that, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Assessor, but my understanding is that you're prepared to explain why, line item by line item.
I did.
So trustee Geis, do you have specific questions for him?
So if we want to go
Can she
through.
see it? I don't think she can see it.
Okay.
Is there email or?
This was just passed down because I
I
requested
can
it.
send that to her or anyone.
Yeah,
But I
don't have
think
I don't have a way to hold it up. So can you see this?
Can we take a picture of it with the cell
I
phone?
don't think that's.
This is what the assessor handed to me during the meeting, which I passed along to the trustees, so it's only fair you see it too.
You emailed it on Friday, you said, so maybe you could email it. on your
Didn't you
email.
get an email from him with the changes?
yes, I did.
Oh.
And we had
Did anybody ever get back to John about why they cut his budget and what he said?
again, we had this whole conversation with the assessor, with the Jordana, and with the accountant, going through line item by line item, what the
Did they get
accountants,
back to him?
and
And say,
again.
we're not gonna give you this money?
And again, we're making sure that this budget was posted, and
The budget that was posted, I saw when you posted it 48 hours before. And when I saw those numbers that came through, I thought they were errors. I contacted you, I told you that there were some changes. I said I was gonna make some changes. I came came to this office, I came to the front office here, just the public area, because I can't get anywhere else. I asked for you, I gave you those documents and you said you would take care of them.
And so that
I've not heard anything until I saw the posting 48 hours before this meeting that those numbers hadn't been, that nothing had been changed. I'm asking you, I'm thinking that is for an elected official that's been here for 29 years. I think that's unreasonable. I think it's unfair to scrape 10% out of my budget and not even address some of the other issues that I brought up at our meeting was unfair. I think that when I'm asking for, when we have a township attorney that is taking notes, and when I'm asking for that information, not providing that, refusing to provide information to me is totally unacceptable. I'm asking the trustees right now that if they want, they can do anything that they want. If they want to segregate my portion out and say, don't make any changes to it, that's fine. If they want to go through and say they want to make amendments to the budget, my portion of the budget, the trustees have that right to do that.
I just don't feel like I have a compelling case to touch his budget. That's what that's what I'm struggling with, to be honest with you. I don't know that there's a case.
Because it's not.
I'm sorry.
And you and the trustees have that absolute right to say the assessor's portion of the budget doesn't get changed.
So do we have the
Democrats
choice?
say
to say
fully.
that? Do we have that's what I was trying to get at earlier, Supervisor. Are we in a position to say we approve the other amended items, but we do not want to touch Assessor Trowbridge's budget? Do we have that option?
Yes, you can, Assessor Trowbridge submitted, so as I said, I think you have 3 options here that are, well, you have 4 options. So the first one is, as Assessor Trowbridge said, he made some amendments to his budget that is 7,000 less. He alternatively asked that the original budget remain untouched. Then there's the document that
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I understand. No, but I guess what I know that we have 3 options. What I'm saying is, are we in a position to make that choice tonight? That's what I'm asking. So like, could I make a motion I don't know. So what are you thinking, Dana?
Well, I would, let's hear everything else so that we can do one motion with it, rather than. I'm watching.
No,
So let's. No, I think maybe getting some sort of feedback from the trustees on what of the options they want to take. I think that would be helpful. And then after we close the hearing, we can, I can help you with the motions.
Okay.
I think the final document, though, again, I just want to be cautious, and it's only because I'm really bad at math. I want to just have the opportunity to make sure that the document is correct before you vote on it, since this is so important. So we can make some motions to change line items and however you guys want to do it, and then if we can then table the approval until the 8th.
I got you. Okay, so what we need to find out right now is if trustees Page, McGovern, and Robinson are interested in leaving his budget the way he's had it managed. Or, so we have to decide between the 4 of us, which of the 4 options we would be leaning to in order to even get to that place, though. So we need to come to some consensus. So I'll tell you, since I think we should leave his budget alone. I don't think we should touch it.
I have another question, because there seems to be like a backstory here that I'm not aware of. John, you mentioned that there were some legal questions that you were requesting that were not unanswered. Were you able to find those on your own, or?
My understanding of the actions the previous board made was to hire counsel for the entire township as the township attorney. It is my opinion from what I personally observed and my requests and the responses that I've gotten, as well as the clerk's questions and the responses to the clerk, that the attorney clearly does not have and has an advocacy position for one group over the rest. There was absolutely no reason, in my opinion, for an attorney to be sitting in a budget meeting and taking notes. And then when I request copies of those notes, because it's supposed to be attorney-client privilege, she refuses. That tells me that that attorney is not representing me. And this is a subject, this is not a subject for this particular type of a meeting. We're talking about a budget right here, but this is a very, very troubling situation.
I was just curious about the process and how it led to this.
And just to maybe, since you asked, normally township attorneys, they are not, they're a special, I'll be honest with you, they're a special breed. They are, and the analogy is they're trying to herd cats. You have an elected supervisor, an elected clerk, and elected assessor, and that individual has to have no master. They have to work with everybody. This is not the person that we have right now, and I hate to talk in front of her, but that is not the case. She's clearly an advocate in one particular direction. I've given her time and time again opportunities to try to work with her, and that it's not the case. And for her to suggest that I'm going to sit down and talk with her again after we had 2 meetings and I requested the information and she denied me, I'll be honest with you, I have no comfort level with that type of representation.
So Attorney Wysocki, if I were to ask you for your notes for anything, would you give it to me?
Nope.
Because that's against the professional code that you
Well,
have.
attorney notes are attorney work product. Even when I pass my file, even when a client asks for their file, they don't get my notes. My notes are attorney work product. No one gets them. I don't share them with anyone. I offered Assessor Trowbridge, I offered to summarize the meetings. If he wanted summaries, that was fine. I'd be happy to type up a summary for him. He said no, and that's pretty much my interactions with him. So
I'm worried about this budget item because I know how much attorneys cost. And I know how we're utilizing this for, for question meetings. And I think this is proceeding and meeting with John. I think that this is a budget item that could be slenderized. I'm a little concerned because I saw how the other board operated and I don't think they were racking up as much hours.
And yet they didn't do some of those basic things like create a FOIA policy, like create an ethics policy, like some of the basics that we're trying to do right
But
now
it's-
that would have
it's
been
the-
really great to have
It's the
inherited.
presence and just
I know,
normal
but like,
questioning.
how long do you think
That had to do with budget.
is for example, we're trying to make sure that we're
talking about
following the
budget.
law, and this budget is a huge legal document. There's a lot of legal implications to make sure that we're understanding and we're properly doing. And so if we're not following the law in setting the levy and creating this budget, and the only way that we can properly follow the law is by having an interpretation of the law from somebody that has a municipal background experience specialty.
How about township back in?
And so.
And how is it that
How-
the attorney could say to
Did
take
you-
money out of
Did
the
you have
assessor?
to get trustee approval to cut a check because of this contract? At the last
So
meeting, I looked at that.
this is the hearing for the budget, and not a.
think she
Frankly,
said-
interview of
I
the
think she-
township
she
attorney.
asked A question, do you recall, because I actually do recall at that last meeting, he made that statement and you answered it. Can you recall that?
So if this board approves an expenditure through a contract, the next time it comes up would be in the audit, the payment of bills. But you're contractually obligated to make the payment because you've entered into a contract, as long as the contractual terms are fulfilled.
But you didn't mention about the audit. You
Does it
mentioned
have to
about,
go through the audit process?
correct.
My understanding is that all outgoing checks in townships go through the audit
I don't
process.
think that's what you represented to the trustees at the last meeting.
I apologize if that wasn't clear.
Because she issued a check without trustee approval. And she went on about, well, it's a contract, blah, blah, blah. And you said, yes, if there's a contract, it's okay.
If there's a contract, you're contractually obligated.
But it was
pay
out
it.
of cycle, and that
Okay.
it was presented that way, that it didn't go through the audit, it was out of cycle. It was a
And we're
single check.
working on, again, creating a
Yeah,
purchasing
but that's
policy
not-
that would have
we
been
get
really
that, we
great
get
if it was
that.
created 20 years ago. And so again, we're needing to make sure that those
But that's not
policies
what's
are
being
created
said.
in a way that is, making sure that the
It may
taxpayers'
have been that
funds
I-
are properly being shepherded.
I mean, it may have been
But I
that I
do think-
misspoke there. I apologize
You're
if
gonna
that's the
take
case.
call for these.
That,
I don't
that's.
think it's
I mean-
online yet.
I
But I do think-
I don't want to
do think what
waste
is-
money and
what
time.
it Seems to be coming out that's clear is the fact that she, and I'm not going to question her ability to be a municipal attorney. My statement, and I said earlier, is the difference between a township attorney and a municipal attorney are completely different. And I think when we discussed the problems that we were seeing in her drawn up FOIA documents, demonstrated very clearly that she does not understand the concept of having 3 elected officials along with a separate elected official. When a FOIA comes into this place, it doesn't go to one particular person because that one particular person doesn't know how that organization is structured. So that you cannot actually have one FOIA officer, but what you should be having are multiple FOIA officers. If you recall, I also brought that, I told you that I actually talked with the PAC officer and mentioned these particular problems. And they agreed with what I was talking about. This is a problem that we have, and rather than throwing it up and making it a big problem, I've tried for quite a while to try to convey to you nicely that this isn't working, and we're trying to do things, we're trying to get things into place that have worked and have proven to work, not just with Lisle Township, but with all the other townships. And as a result, we're asking that these things be put in place, rather than just throwing the baby out with the bathwater and reconstructing something that doesn't work. So all I'm asking is that we keep that in mind when we're going forward, because I think right now the assessor and the clerk are not being represented, and that is, in my opinion, that's a travesty. But if it's a choice that you want to keep this attorney, that is you have every right to that. But in the same token, we have to have the right to have representation for ourselves as well.
To the point of you saying that if I want to get a court order to get the documents that I'm supposed to be in charge of, that's, I'm supposed to be in charge of them. I did get some of them on the Monday, so I'm so glad that whoever you talked to told you that I was supposed to have those documents, but that's what I was told, that I could get a court order to get the documents that I'm supposed to be in charge of anyway.
Does that sound like good?
There's been
common
some
legal
difficulties.
advice?
The first time we met, you called me a name, and that did not make me feel represented. You called me a sham because I requested a separate session where we could ask more questions and get more information. So I do feel like I know where they're coming from. I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon, but
That really sounds like something that I am.
It's on a
very
recording.
surprised.
it's on the recording.
It's just hard because
think that-
Diane, what you're saying is that you sat with the accountant and the attorney to create the budget, but we all know on this end that that's not for the benefit of the assessor or a clerk or it's only, we feel that it's, or I feel that it's more for for the township, for the supervisor's office. Because where's the $65,000 that you're taking from him going? What do we need that for specifically? because you're taking $65,000, right?
So what
Out
we're
of there.
really doing is, again, making a more accurate understanding of where the township, the whole township is at. And so I'm sorry that these
Why do we
feelings
do
are
this
coming
now?
up, and we're trying to address all of these feelings with documented help and explanations and everything that we can possibly do. We're trying to make sure that everything is as transparent as possible, being put on the website as fast as we can.
We have a couple questions, and I know you'll have questions, but,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
okay, my questions are
Sorry, did we decide what we're gonna do with? these types of-
the public hearing's not over though yet, right?
Okay.
So we're,
Oh, you know,
we're
you're right, you did say, let's hear all the comments before we make any decision. Got it.
All right. Well, however you wanna,
Yeah,
however you guys wanna.
So I just want to make sure that the highway commissioner has a time for any questions as well.
But I just thought the clerk would go first. She said.
yeah, and then, yeah,
know.
I just my questions are, first off, this is for 2 months. I know you said, and this is for the past budget, the budget that we've been working through all year long. I know you said a couple things like the refund and recovery has the grant money in it, which is 25K and 36K. But so that is 61K, but you have 50,000 here as amended.
And that's, again, there's other pieces in there that need to be adjusted and whatnot. And again, if you like that more detail, we can send you an email with all those.
Okay, so there's 50 that you're amending, so the other 11 should be someplace else. Where would that go?
And again, we can have the accountant give you more details for that
Okay.
specific line.
Okay, so what are the items on this budget?
And
that we-
feel free to schedule a time to meet with the
I
accountant.
actually think that the individual conversations are not helpful for the board. I don't think you're, I think that it's not a violation, but I.
May I just, may I make a suggestion? Can we move this to executive session?
No,
No, I don't,
this is the public hearing and we need to.
yeah, there's not a reason for us to go into executive session under the OMA. with-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
so which items are in trouble? What items did we get in trouble this year for? Rent is number one, right? Because we've been paying out, and I know it's probably illegal that we've been paying out without having the money coming out of the budget, or the money allocated in the budget. So that one we're in trouble for, that I know, right? I know you want to put money in the capital improvements for, we've never seen any documents on it, but for the capital improvements for a possibility of getting a grant. So I know you want to put money into there. I don't know how much the grant is these days either. What else is in trouble that we have to? Because this budget was already voted on at the beginning of the year. It was already filed. This is our gospel to work on. You know, now we're coming and we're curing whatever evils that we did or adding things on for the last 2 months. Whatever projects we want to do could be on a new budget. We don't need to do this now. And I've said this before to you. So, but which items? So those are 2 areas. What else are we in trouble with?
Okay, so it sounds like you want to give your commentary and it sounds like you
I'm
didn't
asking
want
a
to
question.
meet us at the time when we could, meet and go through this. And we've gone through this several times. And I went through this line item by line item.
And I had questions, and that's when you said that the passports, we were gonna go from $3,000 to $35,000 the last meeting. And I said, how are you going to do that? And you said, by cross training. I'm like, that's a big increase. So I'm glad to
You're-
see it went from 3,000 to 6,000.
Talking about the other, I think you may be thinking about the 23-24 budget that we were talking about.
No, it's right
previously.
here. It's right here from January 4th. You have $35,000. About January 4th, tentative amended budget and appropriation, $35,000. So I asked the question.
Okay.
But here nor there, you changed that, so that's good. But so where are we in trouble? Which ones do we have to change?
Okay, anything that is 10% different.
Which ones are those?
And again, you can see the difference. in
No,
right
no,
hand
I mean,
column.
the ones
And so
that.
again, you
Sorry.
can see the difference in the 10 at the very last column, if you would let me
No,
speak.
that, what that is saying, excuse me, what that is saying is that's the change that you want to make.
Yes,
I'm talking about,
And I'm
the
telling
profit
you
and loss.
that
No,
there's a 10% difference, and if there was a 10% difference, am I wrong? Attorney Wystocki, that there must be a change made to ensure that we're, from a being underneath perspective, we cannot amend it if it's more than 10%.
that's not my
expend it.
question. That's
it
not my
can-
question.
So if you look on the right-hand side, if you see a number that is, of course, any 10% difference, there's likely to have been a need for a change.
Likely to be in a need. So it would have been helpful to have the year to date here to be able to look at it. I think you have the year to date. I'm just asking, which we cannot be over 10% on all of these. Every single year, I don't even know if we've amended a budget. But if you amend a budget, it's only one or two things that, oh my gosh, the computers crashed. We have to buy new computers. We have 2 months.
So year to date, the last, if you look on the, in the in the January, account reports of January 11th and the staffing reports and the accounting information was all the year to date profit to loss statements. So this has all been publicly posted for several weeks, making sure that people could, like Barry probably did, just print them off the internet and make his spreadsheet to figure out where we were at, and so that we could understand, just like we've gone through several times with the accountant. Any questions?
Okay, I am telling you then that not all of these here need to be changed.
Okay, thank you for your opinion, Clerk Polowitz. Is there any other questions that you have? Are there any other questions?
Well, I'll go specifically then is, so the grant, you're not gonna answer that. You said 50,000, so I don't know where the 11,000 is. The grant that we're putting all this money into the capital improvement is that, how much do they need into our capital improvement account?
It needs to be fully funded.
Which is how much, 2 million?
Nope, they want to have 4 million in there.
4 million in the capital of improvement?
Mhm.
So we're
We're
gonna put more,
estimating that we're going to need more money than we anticipate. So in order to fully fund that amount, we're putting that much aside, yes.
and how much is this grant?
For $500,000,
Now it's 500,000
yes,
Wasn't
and,
that $1 million?
yeah, it was.
it was originally.
It's a moving target.
It is a moving target because the requirements of the grant and the requirements that the county let us know about are not what we had originally anticipated. And so when you look at what the other townships have been receiving, they're generally receiving between $250,000 and $500,000. And have every other township gotten their $250,000 to $500,000? Yes, we are the last to receive it.
No,
But you have
that's
received,
down.
you've received money, haven't you?
We
36.
received 36,000 from the original ARPA receipts on primarily technology and COVID expenses.
Yeah, but you're asking for $4 million. And the last estimate that I saw from the architect is $2 million.
Yes.
And you're saying that you're gonna have run-ups that's gonna make it $4 million?
Okay, we are fully anticipating that as we're looking at supply chain and different costs of building, that we want to make sure that we have the options that we need.
So
Anticipating that we're also looking to apply for other grants. We have received a grant from from North Shore Edwards Elmhurst for $250,000. We do anticipate applying for more grants to make sure that the community has the best return on our investment possible.
that $250,000, I thought that $250,000 was specific to the food pantry.
So what it's specific for is for a truck. There's two pieces that it's specifically for: a dock level refrigerated truck and also a portion of the food pantry. which is a portion that they are fully understanding must be built out.
So that 250,000 has nothing to do with the 4 million that you're proposing.
It has a whole lot to do with that because anything that is over and above the dock level height truck, which we expect to be about 150 to 200,000, will go to the food pantry.
But the 250,000 can't be in capital improvements because it's for a truck.
So this is separate grants, to be super clear. So the North Shore Elmhurst grant was for two pieces. It is for the truck and for a portion of the future food pantry expansion. So it is not meant for the pantry as it exists right now. The only piece that they're requiring is that we buy a truck and that we expand the food pantry in the projected building.
Okay, but you're again, trying not to harp on this. You're anticipating, and you just stated that you're gonna put $4 million into a building in which we had a meeting, a special meeting some months ago, which went down, but there was discussion of a property that was made available to you for about $2 million. And that's completely out of the question.
So what we're doing is we're putting the money into an account. We're not spending it. We're not approving to spend it. What we are doing is we're approving to put it in a capital account. Is that correct, Attorney Wysocki? If this were to-
beyond my, I don't know what account it.
Okay, we
Yeah.
haven't, again, in order to create the capital account, there's a whole lot more details that need to be done. But first of all, we need to set aside this in the budget, and what to do with it is, for example, we're doing an ongoing needs assessment by Northern Illinois University, and we're making sure that we fully understand the needs that the township and the 708 board have.
But you have today us looking at the architect and paying for the architect without the needs assessment being back in.
And so what we need to do is we need to understand what our options are. And so in order to create plans and to design any future, we have to understand what our options are.
But
And
you-
so again, this is making sure that we have everything properly in time in place. And step one is to make sure that we have the proper financing.
But if you have the Northern Illinois University doing a needs assessment,
Mhm.
and so you don't even know what you need, and then you have resolution 23007 approving and paying for an architect to the tune of $150,000, isn't that kind of putting the cart before the horse?
So it's not that we will all of a sudden pay a lump sum of 120,000, because as you can see, there's a $30,000 credit for at that cost and an estimated 6%.
But that's not what's written there. It says lump sum. It doesn't say the timing on it. And the resolution says 150,000, even though it does say $30,000 credit. So that resolution is either wrong or you're wrong, but it's still the whole idea of paying the architect any money when your trustees haven't even voted on this. The community hasn't even, well, the only thing I've heard the community say over and over again is, number one, at the meeting, do not build a building, and then go back like a couple of years, and they did not want any building of any building, any building of a building before, for the assessor's office too. It's been continually, so there's
So we're
not,
going to negate the whole fact that COVID changed our economy and changed the need level in our community, which then, of course, translated to in 2020, we were originally planning for about 500 people a month. Now we're at 3,000
this is June
people.
15th, they said no building.
And so here's the thing is what people said was that we did not pass a resolution to lease, to purchase land.
Mhm.
And that's very different than to
But
build.
did you
a
hear
building. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And they were thoroughly misinformed and it really
What came out of their
Problematic.
mouth was do not build a building.
And they also
We
said
don't
that,
want you to spend money on building a building.
and they also
So-
didn't believe that grants were in existence. And so
And
that's,
they were actually right about that, because you told them that was gonna be $1 million grant, and now it may be $500,000. So you know, I get it, why they maybe didn't believe it. So
so
who
the
told you
other,
that?
the other
4 million?
townships that are getting, actually, there's one township that,
Who
that-
didn't get any money? We got $36,000.
Yes.
Every other township got 200,000 and stuff. We're the only ones, and we had a grant writer. They don't even have a grant writer, and we couldn't get more money than $36,000. That's crazy.
exactly. And so it's
Right.
good that we're in line to get our $500,000. And when you look at, for example, Wayne Township, they did get $1 million.
Yeah,
And so it was really impressive and really inspirational to make sure that we had all of our ducks in a line so that we can get our $500,000 in likely March or April. And so sometimes it doesn't always happen the timing of which we would like.
but they all got it in the timings. But my question is, who says that we need $4 million in this capital improvement? Where is that? Did the county say it needs to be $4 million? Why do they believe we need $4 million? How do they know that 4 million makes us fully funded?
Okay, so we've been going through every month since June, getting estimates, getting costs about the project. And so it's been in writing.
We've been told 2 million.
And so, yes, we have been. And so we're also looking at the rate of change of what supplies are costing and what have you not.
So this
And
$2
so-
million building will now be $4 million. The county knew that it was gonna be $4 million before we did. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's
Okay.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we're being incredibly judicious in making sure that we have the ability to spend what we could need and that we have it put aside. And so one of the pieces that we're understanding is that there's change in building costs and supply and demand. And so I've been told, for example, that at no other time has it been so difficult to buy, for example, a refrigerated truck. In the past, it was very easy to get state pricing to buy such a vehicle. But right now, we're likely to have to wait a full year, even if it was brand new. We've been told that, for example, Loaves and Fishes put in their order in November of 2020, and they've just now gotten their truck. So the pandemic has really thoroughly realigned people's understanding of need. And people's, frankly, our understanding as a township of the need that exists. And so, again, the county has sent around an email, and I showed it at one of the previous meetings. I think it was the September meeting, maybe it was the October meeting, where they were requiring us to have a more substantial funding. And making sure that we could afford this in order for us to even have any option at any extra funding.
So what number did they say we needed in there?
They didn't say a number
Oh, okay, so
They
we're
said
saying
fully-
4 million. I
we're
will add to
saying
that,
that we're
this is
looking to
the
make sure.
absolutely worst time to be building in pretty much the history of building homes. And I know that, that everything's gonna cost so much more than it needs to. This is not the time to be building a building. So I agree with all those people who were at the meeting that this is not the time to be building a building. I would like to see where this 4 million, because I've been asking for a study as far as we don't have a need study. We don't know what the cost will be for furniture, for utilities, for maintenance,
Mhm.
and then now we're learning that $2 million is not going to be $2 million. It's probably going to be $4 million. So I think we're way far off from really working on this building or paying the architects or anything. We need to get our ducks in a row before we go out and try to get other people to say, this is a great idea. The community doesn't even really know about this. And I don't know how we build a building without getting approval. I think that's unlawful because it's not replacing a building.
Okay.
It's not.
So we're not, I think the piece to note is the law regarding this building. And so again, we had a building in that exact same area for about 3 decades.
And then how long has it been gone?
It was condemned in 2019,
Mhm.
that it was finally raised.
Before that,
So
it's
right,
been gone like 5 years, right?
2019 is,
I can't recall.
I can't recall either, but it's been gone about 5 years.
so
And
2019
we
is,
already did replace that. That's why we're leasing the Ogden Avenue.
okay,
We
so,
actually have more space there in this, more than we had with that building.
so I beg to differ because the architects have shown us the numbers of how we've looked over the former floor plans of the old building.
Mhm.
And sized up where we were and where we are. And the ability, for example, there was a place where people could meet as a community for a town hall. That does not exist anymore. There was a place for people to meet for senior activities that does not exist anymore. We are currently leasing the assessor's office. Would I think that that part of really the goal of the last meeting was to give the community a choice to perhaps buy the assessor's office and see if that were a deal that we could work towards. I know that we very much had several conversations with Doug here, making sure that we understood where our options were. And so part of the piece that the community needs to understand is the piece that is required for building a building or for in any type of this investment is to make sure that in one of the other pieces, before I go into the pieces required for building a building, in which I'll let the attorney speak about, there's two questions we have for you, Attorney Wysocki, Township Attorney. The two questions I have are, Debbie just alluded to saying that it was what we're trying to do wasn't legal. And so there's 3 things that I believe that are needed to build a building. The other, so what is it that is needed to build a building legally?
Top of my head, I'd have to.
So
I
there's
honestly would have
3.
to spend more time.
So as we've been discussing this, I can say off that we've been discussing the need to have a needs assessment.
You need an.
And so and to prove the needs that we currently have. Now, the township, for the first time, we've been walking through understanding our needs. We first, when we were first elected, we visited the other townships and we subsequently realized one of the reasons why we weren't having meetings of the DuPage Township officials at our location is because we don't have a place to do it. And when we looked at the other townships, they do have a whole lot more services, especially looking just right across the way at DuPage Township and looking at Hanover Township that has 49 acres. 49 acres for a very comparable demographic township as ours. So the understanding our needs is absolutely critical. And so we're going to the professionals that will give us a survey in 3 different methods to make sure it's scientifically proven. We'll have the survey of the community with a mail version of the survey. We're going to have the survey of our current services, which annotates the whether they're getting anything from the food pantry or general assistance or what other transportation. The third piece is the intergovernmental stakeholder survey, which will allow for the people that we're working with in an intergovernmental way to have input into this facility. The second piece that we need to have is the funding. One of the pieces that we do understand is that if we have 2.5 times our budget, we have to pay it down. We cannot, as an entity, keep collecting. There is a requirement to use the money that we do have. So we could not, and at this point, I had been already had a meeting with a few with the Township Attorney Wysocki about the how much money we had accumulated. And were we at a point where we actually do need to spend down our money because we were at a point where we had too much?
There's,
Then why did we raise our levy?
so there's two pieces to it. So we can't accumulate money for no purpose. That's not allowed under the tax code. That's why people file tax objections. If we have a specific purpose that we're saving towards, that's something we can accumulate, which is what this capital, but it needs to be real clear that's a capital improvement and that it's, we just need to be real clear. That's why we're saving the
And
money.
how do you document?
I've seen it documented in meeting minutes. I've seen it documented by resolution or ordinance. I've seen it.
In the budget? If you're
Um,
not gonna spend the money for 5 years, why would you put it in this year's budget?
well, I think that, I think that that's. I've seen it documented in budgets when they're going to invest the money and it needs to be. That allocation needs to be explained, it needs to be in the budget so that they can move money from. To some sort of investment account. Which is what I'm understanding is.
That's not what is required for townships. Is it? I mean, this is this year's. budget.
Well, no, the question
there's
you
no
asked is if
carryover.
we can, if I've seen it documented there. Yes, I've seen it documented in the budget because it provides a documentation of how things are going to be invested. Is it a requirement? Not to my knowledge. I believe that, does it need to be a line item in the budget? When you're saving funds,
So why
I don't
are
know
we
that it
putting-
does.
Why are we putting $1.6 million in? And let me, and this is the point that I was trying to get at. We have, I believe the last architectural proposal that I saw indicated that there was going to be a cost of about $2 million.
So it's a-
At this meeting, we've heard that number has gone up to $4 million. My question to you is where did you get that number from?
Okay, and here's where we got that number from, is that we don't know, we're at the very beginning of figuring out where the needs are. Okay, and we're at the very beginning of the
I'm a
design.
taxpayer.
Right.
I'm barely making my property tax payments as it is. And you are suggesting that the township squirrel away $2 million of their tax dollars on the idea that the budget that your own architect says was $2 million. And when we questioned him on the $2 million, because I'm in the business, I thought that was a little bit light. He told me specifically that he made an adjustment to get to that. He took, because of the cost of infrastructure, the actual increases in materials, he made a 9% adjustment to his number to get to that $2 million. So now, can you explain to the taxpayer who's watching right now, why you think it's appropriate with an opportunity to buy a piece of property that's standing for $2 million, that's going to be bigger than what you're proposing, why you would make that person go and pay more in property taxes for the next 2 or 3 years? So they can,
So I think you're missing the numbers here in that, for example, we have zero intention of raising taxes. We don't have to raise taxes to have that much money. And we do not have any intention of spending a dime in any way that is unnecessary. And so yes, we did. And
That's
so,
raising taxes.
that's raising
okay,
taxes.
so here's the point is that, okay, if
Wait,
you were to look
if you're
at
not-
the
you're saying you're not
average.
gonna raise, I want to make sure this is very clear. You just stated that you're not gonna raise taxes, but you submitted a levy that is more than it was last year. That's raising taxes.
Okay, so we have an inflationary rate of 7%. And
So
what
you
we-
are raising taxes.
It's 7%.
the 2022 annual inflation rate, as I recall, was 7%.
Is that what, did the levy go up more than 5%?
It did not go up more than 5%. If it were to go up, and again, when I was looking at some of the other townships levies, a very common one was the exact same one that we did, because it's 2% below inflation, which means that we're, and inflation is one of those things that frankly, we're subject to on the worldwide basis. And there's been an inflationary increase this past year. So understanding that we have to keep up with inflation because of the needs that are likely to rise according to inflation.
So isn't the tax cap law saying the lesser of the rate of inflation of 5%?
CPI.
So that's what we did not do. We did not go over 5%.
Okay.
So, this has been a long circuitous way of saying the three things that we need to make sure we have are the finances, the again, board approval for any of the contracts that we're going through. And so again, we're going to be making sure that, for example, as we were voting or as we were meeting with the different trustees, Trustee Robinson is wanting to focus on the community center, that the expansion of it and the ideas, and we're very much at the very starting phase of still, we've had a number of meetings with the architects, with the various trustees, and we're at the very start of this piece. We have spent $1 so far.
So going on for the couple other questions is the administration is going up from 14.5 to 117,000. I know you said the NIU funds will go into that for the study. The study was supposed to go out in September. When is that going out?
So we've had a whole lot of needs to readjust that. We expect that it would go out sometime in the next month.
Okay, so what you said is it's going up over $100,000 to pay them for best practices for accounting. I'm not sure what that means, and for human resources best practices. I'm not sure what that means either.
So I explained it. As I
missed that.
said, okay, so the NIU
I
is
got that.
for the governmental
How much
study.
is that costing again?
41,000 is the estimated amount.
Okay,
And for the estimated amount of what our accountant would be, it would be 50,000. And for the estimated amount of what the HR is 26,000.
so when it's the best practices for accounting, is that what we're paying our accountant under the 50,000?
Yes,
Okay, so
and so
'cause
basically,
she's spent 30,000 so far.
right, and so one of the pieces that we're really wanting to make sure is that all of our finances are best reported to the taxpayers, that they're shepherded in the way that is most guarding and husbanding the funds that we need. And so there is a need to improve our ability for those in those areas.
And the human resources for 26,000, what is that?
For example, recruiting people and we didn't have some of the basic policies that, like I've been showing and explaining. In April, as we were developing our HR manual, the reviews, the policies for some of those basic things like petty cash, or like how we're doing our days off. There's a variety of pieces that we need to install because they were not done in the past.
And then, so the legal supervisor, that I'm sure is Attorney Wazaki, correct?
Correct.
So I've only seen one check for $451. How often are we going to be getting invoiced? Is that going to be a monthly thing?
Monthly.
Yeah, so it's monthly, so we'll know where we stand. I'm just really concerned because I forgot what the number is. It's like 205 or 225. But I mean, even with your meetings today, you each had meetings 4 times 200, and then the accountants were there too. and that's another $100. Like, I'm really worried where this is going,
And
as
it's
far as.
super
where these-
important for the trustees to have their questions answered and to have that time with the attorney to know what they need to. It's super invaluable.
Actually,
Did the
I'd like-
trustees?
I would like to address that. The attorney, again, the municipal attorney has told us that that's illegal. And what I can tell you, what my experience is, the idea is, and it seems to be that everybody wants to keep everything open and transparent. And we would have budget hearings and budget meetings where we would sit down and we would talk like this. And the idea of this was not to have one person or two people spoon feed you information that they think is relevant without the public knowing about it, without transparency. What we did is we would have meetings and we would sit down in front of all of you and the public, and we would hash out exactly what our issues were, and we would come up with a budget. I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying what you did was illegal or a violation of the Open Meetings Act, but what I can tell you is the average property that looks at that, looks and saying, is gonna say, you know what, that's not very transparent. Because you can tell me what you heard there. And you can tell me what you heard there, and it may be two completely different things. And what the taxpayer is completely blind to it. And truth be told, I don't know what happened. I don't, and I've been here for 29 years. I don't know what happened. And I don't think it's transparent at all. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's shameful. And I'm not blaming the trustees. I'm not blaming the trustees. You don't know. That's not your fault that somebody says it's okay to do. But the nagging, what's going to be nagging you after this is the fact that you now know that they scheduled meetings that are not transparent. And that's wrong. Maybe legal, but it's morally
Private
wrong.
meetings, right?
So part of how a board gets to some understandings is by talking to each other and by communicating. And that's what a private meeting is by talking to each other and communicating, working out any misunderstandings or confusions or uncertainties, because OMA requires that us, not meet as a group without having the 48 hours notice, without having the all of the infrastructure. And of course, if you all wish for more budget hearings in February, those can, of course, be figured out with enough notice.
You're discussing the business of the township. That's all you were doing.
That's what public meetings are for.
Exactly, thoroughly. So if you would like to add another agenda item to the 8th, or if you would like to have another meeting specifically on the budget, we can always do that. We in the past have had those meetings, and we did in 2021.
And especially because some of those private meetings, I know you were talking about me. And it's like, that's not even right. That's not what you should be talking about. You're supposed to be talking about the budget. So if you're talking about me, I'd like to have a moment too, to be able to explain whatever you may be telling them about me that's wrong. So I don't think these private meetings are a way to run our office, for us. And, you're saying about the communication, and you're saying the right words, Diane, but when we're trying to reach out to you for communication and you don't communicate back, and then, or you add an attorney onto the email, or you're having the attorney write notes for just a conversation, that's not an open communication.
So if you would like to get on our agenda, if you'd like to.
I
figure
asked to
out-
get on the agenda for the next meeting.
And what you asked for was a line item, which we've already
Mhm.
addressed.
No, I still said I'd like to get on, we'll talk about it here. We didn't really talk about it. You talk, nobody else talked. I don't think we need to talk about it today and add further onto it, but I did say we could talk about it today, but I'd like to be on the budget or on the agenda for the next meeting. Because I also notice on here, it's not elected officials reports, it's just supervisors reports. So you're not even getting even an opportunity for the elected officials to give any report they want to give. So you're saying the right words about communication, but you're not living them.
Thank you for your opinion, Clerk Polowitz. Is there any other questions that you might have? And 1 second. Okay, then Doug,
Yeah, I have a question in regard to the proposed building. What size is that building? The square footage?
we are not anywhere near, we are so in the rudimentary phases that I couldn't even give you an estimate yet, because we seriously looked at. Barry, you were there this afternoon, there was a variety, we looked at 4 different versions, we're nowhere near coming to a final version.
Yeah, I can't remember.
We don't have a ballpark.
We were
Like,
told
we were
that it was
given
8,000 and then it went down to 7. That's the last we heard.
Do we know how far that about?
This information about the square foot.
Again, we've gone through several versions and renditions. There's a hole on the other side of the parking lot that basically it would fill in. And it would be very comparable to our former size, but I can get you that information. sir.
Did he not in his original proposal say that the maximum area that they could possibly cover would be 7,000 square feet?
Here's the thing is that would, I think that presupposes how many floors that there could be. We're not anywhere near getting to square footage, sir. And it, frankly, I think we're super at the preliminary phases of every aspect.
So if that's the case, then the recommendation or the fees that this architect is proposing at 150,000, they usually project these based on the building and square footage of what they're trying to construct. You're telling me this architect is putting something together that could be that could deviate that significantly and yet come up with a flat fee of $150,000?
And we have no clue at what size this building's
I
going to
have-
be.
Good question.
I have
Yes.
one question. What's your role in regard to the architect?
I just said, I'm new trustee.
Okay, so the other question I have is, has the architect actually drawn a footprint or a site plan or anything?
Yes, sir. Let me show you that.
I'm a little confused on how a architect could charge an estimated fee for architectural plans and building this $2 million budget. Preliminary budget, just guesstimating, if he doesn't know what the size of the building.
I think Diane talked about that. There was quite a few of them. There was a footprint where the old building was.
Okay.
Yes, it was 2 stories on that. So whatever that works out to be, I don't
So
know.
there's a footprint, but is it 2, 3, 4 stories? There's a basement, there's a lot of areas.
Yeah, and that's what the-
So that's the estimated footprint.
It wasn't, in that presentation, wasn't there an estimated square feet too?
Yes, but this was several,
Was it?
this was several iterations ago. So there's the ideas that we're still understanding and figuring out
So
our options.
without, I know there's, a lot of discussion and stuff. Ballpark, is it 5,000, 6,000, 7,000?
Barry has the documents. I don't have it right off the top of my head, sir.
Okay, can you email me when you find that?
Yeah.
And my point is, I'm sort of wondering,
Sorry, you're new to me.
what's that?
You're new to me. I'm not sure who you are or what you're.
I can get you her.
I get it. So. My question is, does the board know about the alternative buildings? Locations and sites available to them?
Do you mean the Ogden Avenue sites?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're aware of it.
And
I
I'm
just wanted
aware
to
of
make
some
sure that-
others too that are available.
so Diane, did you share that with the board?
I haven't shared that latest conversation that we've had.
Alright.
There's always, I mean, here's the piece is that we're, again, figuring out our options and
Okay.
figuring out where we're at. In order for anything to happen with your particular, situation, we would have to have in a town hall meeting, it passed. With an ability to, sell, buy and lease. That's what would have to be
But building a building, you won't have to have a town hall meeting. That's what you're telling me?
correct.
That's
Correct.
correct? Okay.
That's what I've been
All right,
told. That's what I've been told.
That's what you've been.
From another attorney prior to Attorney Wysocki. And we haven't yet gotten
Okay.
to,
Okay.
Okay, I'm
So-
just getting clarification.
and again, we haven't,
Okay.
Did you send a letter to the supervisor saying you had an offer to build, an offer to sell? An offer to buy, you own the building, exactly.
I own both buildings adjacent to the campus and I offer both buildings, either one, same price. One's a 20,000 square foot building, one's 11,500 square foot building. I offered the township. You know, they have first right of refusal and
Right.
their,
But did you say to them, you have to you have to exercise your first right of refusal now and something?
did I say that?
Yeah.
There's a clause in their lease, but I didn't say that.
Okay.
Recently, because both buildings are not for sale on the market and they're not marketed right now.
but prior to then, were we getting closer to figuring out what prices were? We did not come to a rate and we did not come to an amount, but we were talking about what it could look like. Was that true, sir?
Yeah, so we came to a preliminary agreement on the price but it wasn't able to be passed at, well, that town hall meeting went awry. So we had discussed price, right?
We discussed price. We just hadn't agreed to
We
anything.
didn't have a contract.
We didn't have a contract. We
have
didn't,
a letter of intent.
No.
Nothing, we're just,
But you didn't notify the township that you had a buyer who's going to buy the building and you needed to exercise your right of refusal.
say that again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
You didn't notify the township that you had somebody that was going to purchase the building and that they needed to exercise the right of first refusal if they wanted to buy the building.
Did I notify the township of that? I don't think so.
you came to us, if I recall, and said that you had, that we had an option. And that's why, I mean, I didn't dream up
So what we did is we offered the property to you per your lease.
because of the
and
right
we
of first.
waited. So in our contract,
That's
we
not
had to give you, I don't know what it was, 60 or 90 days notice, but we ended up waiting 6 months. Till we worked through this town hall meeting and stuff, so. To our demise, we missed the market on selling it because we were working with the township to this purchase of this building, so. You know, and then when they were unable to purchase it at the town hall meeting, we listed the property. And then we took it off the market because the interest rates went up.
We were told there was a letter of a right of first refusal letter. We were told that.
There was.
Okay, so
There is
you
a right of
sent
first-
a letter. No, did you send a letter to Diane or the township that you now have the option to enact your right of first refusal?
I didn't send a letter, but it's in the lease.
No, but what,
And so there was an email conversation that started that helped us understand that we were negotiating with Doug, trying to figure out what our options were. One of our main sticking points was we couldn't even make or any decisions until the town hall approved or disapproved
Right.
it.
well,
And
what,
so until that point, we didn't have a choice.
but at
is
the
that-
meetings, plural, we asked you if there is a right of first refusal, there is a number that you know that the other parties were going to pay for it. And you went back and forth of, yes, I know, no, I don't know. I'm not sure we even knew how much you were negotiating this building for.
We didn't come to a number. We were talking about a variety of different numbers and we didn't have
But that's
anything
not the way
in.
it like.
That's not the way it
first
played out.
refusal works.
No.
Perhaps council would like to explain what it means.
And so again, I'm sure Doug was making sure that that he was following his lease, that he had signed with us and making sure that if he was wishing to sell it, he was giving us the first bite at the apple to try to figure out how to get that done.
You told us there was another buyer.
And
That's
we
why we couldn't understand why after the meeting, you put it up for sale. Yeah,
The ship had sailed.
and you said that has sailed.
Yeah.
We
It was
can't
over.
get the building anymore. That ship has sailed. Those were the exact words.
Yes, they were.
So, and now
so-
we're learning that you were negotiating for 6 months for this building and we didn't know anything about it.
And so again, when we first came into office, we looked at the amazing space differential between other townships and ours. Again, a like-minded or a like area demographically township of Hanover Township has 49 acres. DuPage Township has a fabulous facility right next to us. They have an amazing facility where they have weddings. People actually rent their township building to have weddings and to have a variety of different pieces. So expansion of our township has been on the top of our mind from day one, and trying to figure out and give our community all the options that it needs. When after 2019, the crack in the building, which created the black mold, required the building to be destroyed. So it wasn't because of a lack of need that the building was destroyed. It was because of lack of caring for it or what have you not. And then the building being prematurely needing to be demolished.
It's so hard to make decisions when we don't know all the facets, though. We need to be more transparent.
And so
You know,
it would
Wayne would
be-
be huge. Are they transparent? That's my top priority. I don't want to be on a board that's not transparent because it takes
Totally.
away my ability to make decisions and to report to. our
Totally
constituents.
understand, but at the same time, could we in any way publicly agree to a price when we weren't
We didn't know what was
close,
on the table.
but we didn't have the option. We didn't give, the township didn't give us the option to sign or to really negotiate.
You were
Because
negotiating
it-
for 6 months prior with this
So-
man that we could have gone
My
into
whole point is
executive
going
session.
forward, that I have these two buildings, they're much more cost effective.
Right.
To purchase an existing building than building a brand new building.
Can we alter them with that grant and put in the docs? Is that,
We did
Something-
try that, but frankly, that
it
again,
doesn't have the layout
that
or?
here's the thing is. We would have had to have written the grant at the time and we had that grant written, it was already submitted. But because of the town hall and the way that went down on June 15th of 2022, the community didn't give us that option.
Well, I've got something to say about that. So prior to the town hall meeting, I urged the township to look at our building as a one-off purchase and present that to the public as a one-off option. It would be accretive to earnings because you had saved money with the rent, you have renters. So you were getting a building that was existing, that was accretive to earnings. And that wasn't the way it was presented at the town hall. The town hall was a blank canvas to purchase anything. So I reached out to Diane and after the new year to see if she wanted to revisit this and go forward with trying to do a one-off purchase that is adjacent to the campus, that can be connected to the campus. Either building, I'll sell either building or both. So I'm not here to create adversity. I just want to make sure that all the cards are on the table and everybody knows that this is an option for the township.
Can I ask a question? You own the bubble house and the
Yes.
assessor, what is the second building?
Second building is a little under 20,000 square foot. There's an auto body in there on one side that's on a month-to-month lease.
Right next door?
Yeah,
Okay, so right behind our property here.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of like a warehouse.
Okay.
Type building.
And
right behind the
assessors
garden.
is 11,000 square feet.
Their building is
his.
11,500, the other one's about 20,000.
So, although to be able to rent to a for-profit entity, we would have to put that before the voters, the electors,
Right,
because we're supposed to be nonprofit.
right.
So, but you could rent to someone, but we just need the okay of the electors
Right.
to be able to do that.
And so legally, we were given the advice from our attorney at the time to follow the other 3 townships, which had passed the exact same document, which the reason why we had been given this advice was because if we were to keep going down this road, we would make sure that we would be able to execute it. If there were any differences in what had been negotiated with a one-off type of a circumstance, then we would have to go back to the voters and have another town hall. And so the 3 townships that had passed it just with the exact same wording was Naperville Township, Downers Grove Township, and Addison Township. And so that was the advice that we were given at the time, was to have wording very similar to the other townships that would allow us to negotiate more details and then get into a more negotiated contract with if that was the end result of what was decided.
But the definition of right of first refusal is the owner comes to the lessee and says, either buy this building at this price or I'm going to sell it. And that's not what transpired.
Okay, I think we have a difference of opinion as to what transpired. As Doug has said several times, is that he sent us an email stating that he was looking to sell. And the reason why he was looking to sell was because in our lease that we had signed, it said that he had to come to us first to give us this offer. Is that correct, Doug?
Yeah, I had to present, the option for you to buy it or somebody else.
Okay, but we didn't come to, and again, we didn't come to an agreed upon price. We didn't come to any other details. We had just gone through and looked at the property, thought that it might be a good idea, wanted to present it to the public and wanted to explore those options in good faith. Isn't that how it went?
Yeah, but I don't
Sir?
think it was ever presented to the public.
No, it wasn't.
What we were doing was, again, our attorney.
Canvas.
Right, it was a broad canvas, and again, we were given that advice from our attorney and from the other 3 surrounding townships that passed it every year as a matter of course.
But you had a plan in place, in which you went to the special town meeting and didn't disclose what you had in mind.
And again, our attorney said that at the time, said that the best,
You know, I understand this, Susan, what the attorney may or may not have said.
okay,
You're the one that's responsible for transparency.
yes, sir. And I've been very transparent about the fact of everything that we've just talked about. It's been on public record for some time, sir. Anything else that you wanted to add, Doug?
So you're saying it's on public record that they knew about this negotiation?
It's on public record that we've been talking about it, yes, and that we had fully discussed that we were again trying to figure out a solution, especially for that particular.
I just want to make sure that, we're considered when you go for your expansion. That if that option works for you, that we could be, helpful in helping facilitate a new building or food pantry, or whatever you're gonna use it for.
And again, if that were to be an option, the township would have to approve this at town hall. That's the only way we can have that option, isn't that correct, Attorney Wysocki?
I'm sorry, any sort of sale, and my understanding, and I don't have the ordinance or the statute in front of me. My understanding is that any purchase of property needs to be approved by at the town hall. And, or sale and purchase of any conveyance.
So that could only be done at the second Tuesday in April, or a special
Or-
town hall.
Or special
Right,
town meeting.
right,
That doesn't have to be in April.
true.
Did Wheatland Township, if my memory serves me correct, Wheatland Township put money together to build a township building? And my understanding was that that failed. Do you have any history on that?
Not off the top of my head, sir. I can look into it.
I think
Might be about it.
you keep referring to your prior council saying this is okay. But I believe we have an example of Wheatland Township where they actually had a piece of land and they decided that they were gonna build on it and that did not come to fruition.
Well, I'll make sure that we do our due diligence and figure out why that happened, sir. Any other, anything else you'd like to add, Doug?
I do, I'd love that, but I'm fine for now.
Okay, great. Then,
Does Ed have a name?
I do have a few questions. Let's go back to refunds and recoveries. You said the grants are in there. Is that, and they've been received?
I'm pretty sure that they've been received, sir.
Because I looked at QuickBooks today and it was like $6,000 in that account. And perhaps on a different account. I didn't see that, but it's kind of misleading. You got grants and refunds and recoveries.
I don't have access to QuickBooks anymore, so I
Well,
haven't,
this is a piece of paper.
but I'm looking, and what you're saying is something different, meaning that if I could look into QuickBooks, I could check that out. But I don't have that right off the top of my head. If you would like, tomorrow I can make sure that that's,
I'm just trying to say, for disclosure purposes. if you-
Exactly.
Public, it might be beneficial to put that in the second.
okay, so again, I don't have access to QuickBooks and this is again a document that the accountant Wysocki, or sorry, the accountant put together.
Definitely not an account. Don't give me numbers.
Capital improvements, if this is this year's budget. It makes no sense to have $1.6 million for a capital budget. We're not gonna spend it this year.
So again, this is what the county was wanting for us to make sure that we have it. Again, the county is wanting to make sure that we have enough money to make any decisions.
Yeah, but the budget, that doesn't make any sense, because
Okay.
it's gone, it's over. Now, if
Okay.
you wanna pass a resolution, that would make more sense, and show me your balance sheet. That you got the money.
Did you have a question there?
I'm just saying that this possibly made it more clear, this year's budget, if you're gonna post it. You don't want constructive criticism on the.
Of course, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess the NIU study has been answered. The group insurance is going from 320 down to 2. Is that, the rates went up? So why is it going to?
Because we didn't have a full staff of employees
Of
this
people?
school year.
Okay. On line 10, 1632. FICA. Somebody's spreadsheet can't add.
Oh.
Right. 2050 equals 20,
30,000.
not the way I am.
Which one?
Maybe it's new math.
Make
1632,
sure that,
1632.
yes, yes, sir. I see that there was an error there. We'll make sure that's corrected.
In the general assistance tax, did you talk about that before?
Yes, we did.
What was that?
So we're looking at which line item?
The tax revenue for general assistance?
10, 12.
20, 10, 12, yes.
And so again, we're going to be marrying up these documents with the levy and make sure that that's properly annotated.
What, I'm confused. What's it gonna say? What's the annotation gonna say?
we're making sure again that the levy that was passed and and this piece are in agreement.
Well, the
Well,
levy
the
was
levy-
$85,000.
Sorry.
No, I just want to clarify that I'm sorry, the levy that was passed in December, I was getting confused. The levy that was passed in December concerns this budget. Is that? I thought you were saying that it
No.
was,
21,
The levy would be the year before.
yeah.
okay, all right,
It was
that's what,
passed at 85,100. You have
Okay.
it going up to 263,000.
Yes. And the
How is
reason,
that possible?
again, the reason why is because we had a need to cover more rental assistance, and because we didn't have the right piece and the right number in there in the past, when we passed it the last time in March, we said that we were going to need to amend it to change that number.
and the levy for this budget will be next December, not last December.
You can't, it makes no sense to budget income more than the levy. Where are you gonna get the money?
Well, there's a number of streams of revenue, though. It's not just the levy.
Okay, that's one question. What is it?
Okay, so in the income section, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but in the income section, there was a number of items that, so there's the investments, or the interest on the investment, interest on town fund.
No, look at line 10, 12.
Yes, and so if you look at line total income that's increased, it's 87,900. When you look at all of our adjustments of how we've made room in other aspects, for example, taking off 75,000 in the transportation.
No. Let's just go back to the levy.
Mhm.
How can you increase 3 times the income from the levy?
Okay, this is all coming from the same fund. And again, if you have any specific questions, we can again go through it with the accountant. She's not here right now, and this is all going to be agreed and approved at the next meeting. And so if you have any other questions, I can make sure that that particular one is answered properly. I'm not an accountant, but I can tell you that she can help with that answer if that's not clear enough.
Because on the levy, it does say, I have it up, it does say 85,100.
Yes, and we're amending this budget, and that's why
But
we're,
this is not the budget, this is the levy, and I think that's exactly what you're saying.
okay, so this is the
Yeah,
budget.
This is the real estate tax for general assistance. From that, you get it from the levy. You pass the levy, you're gonna get a little more than that, and what you actually should have gotten was $88,000. There's no way you can increase it to 263. You may have other income in there, but you should tell people what the hell it is.
And that's what we're doing, sir.
Wait, you didn't hear it.
Okay, do you have any other
I
comments?
do. 201031. I think that difference should be negative. I don't know how your spreadsheet did it. And then in section 4 on the last page, the verbiage for the amount doesn't equal the amount listed.
Oh, there's a 5 instead of 4. I'll fix that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Wait, I think I missed one of Ed's comments. I just want to make sure I have, you had one other line item that wasn't correct, and I missed what line that was.
You the tape.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was 201031.
Thank you.
The difference you did.
Yeah, it should be.
Okay.
Should be negative.
1632 as well. With the mistake.
Okay, and then anybody online have any public comments? Or if this is a part of the hearing, sorry,
Yeah,
It's-
any.
the hearing
It's
comments
fine.
with regards
It's
to the budget. Holly or Bahia? Or Autumn?
I have nothing.
Okay. Then
Is there any written?
there's, so the public comment. let me pull out.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure there's nothing about the budget that needs to be included. In the.
Okay, right now there's 0 responses online. Okay, then. With regard to discussion and possible action,
Well, wait, I want to back up a little bit. So, since there's no public comment, if this board would like, we can close the hearing or we can enter and continue it to another date. But it's up to you. I still would, if I'm gonna be drafting anything over the next 10 days, I still would like some guidance on the assessors section. And I know some other items were brought up that I don't know what you guys want me to do with them. So I am.
I'm gonna stick with my initial response, just so that you know, that's where I stand, is that I think we leave the tax assessor's budget alone for now.
I'm on the same page.
My sense is he's come back with some numbers he would like to see in the budget, so we should reflect what the assessor's asking.
The original, so there was 2 things on that purple spreadsheet, wherever it went, which please don't lose it. I'm gonna need it. No, that's fine. So there was a original and a revised column. I don't know if you want to take a look, trustee Robinson, and just let me know.
I better.
I guess we should ask you, Assessor Trowbridge, what's for you? What is your preference? And can you give us a case for one or the other?
Well, I thank you very much. I appreciate that opportunity to discuss this. I have, what I've done in this revised budget is I've changed a number of accounts to tighten them up a little bit. It winds up with $7,000 less than what I currently have. I can live within those guidelines. If they are the way they are. If they're not, then I would ask that what you put forth, you guys be put in place. But I can live with the numbers that I posted as revised numbers.
So that was my thought.
Does that, my question it to you then is, when you say you can live with it, does that put constraints on you? Or, okay,
Those numbers, the numbers that I put in there are numbers that I can finish my.
okay, great. Thank you for clarifying.
That's where I was going, because he's put the thought into it and indicated that's when you get the operating department.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion on that, or do you have feedback or anything you want to say? Okay, so I'm gonna, just to help out with the motion here. Is there a motion to?
I'd like to make a motion to amend. Should I go through with the line items?
You know what I would do is you can reference this document
Okay,
and then we
instead of
can
line
copy it, and just, it refers to the account numbers, so just refer to the account numbers that you're, and which column. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
would like to make a motion to revise account numbers 10-1400 through. Can I just say through?
Yep.
Okay, through 10-1424. To the 2023 budget and appropriation ordinance.
And you're going to, I'm sorry,
To
revise
amend it
them.
with the revised column numbers.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want, does everyone understand the motion?
Could you say it again? Motion to
Yeah.
amend is second.
I would like to amend account numbers. 10-1400 through 10-1424
To the amended.
into the revised.
The
I would like to make a motion to amend the revised column of 10-1400 through 10-1424 to the amended 2023 budget and appropriation ordinance.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
But they can still change the budget before we approve it. Right?
They can, I'm just trying to
No, I understand what you're-
eliminate the need
When
to
it comes
keep
up at the
rewriting.
next meeting, they
Yes.
can change line by line on the face and just pass it. back.
They can, yes. Until you take a final vote on the document, you can alter it as needed. Okay,
Okay,
we need a vote on, so I know that. we're
So-
Still writing the motion.
Well, I'm okay.
Okay,
can we take a roll call vote? Clerk Polowitz?
Sure. Trustee Page.
yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Geist.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, then, discussion and possible action on resolution number 20.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna point of order you. So does the board want to close the public hearing at this point, or did you want to receive more evidence? Then you need a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
And any discussion on whether to close the public hearing? And a roll call vote to close the public hearing.
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Geist.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes.
Okay, and then the next line item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning the amended budget. Is there a motion to table that until February 8th?
I would like to make a motion to table the amended budget until the monthly meeting on February 8th.
I'll second.
And any discussion? And a roll call vote?
Trustee Page.
Yes.
Trustee McGovern.
Yes.
Trustee Geist.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes.
Now you can go to the resolution. Sorry. I wanted to make sure we did that correctly.
Okay, discussion on possible resolution. Making sure that we have a partner in understanding what we're our building options and architectural services. And so this is the scope of services.
And just to be, to clarify some things, the resolution is written not to exceed 150. If the board wants to change that to 120 to reflect that credit, that's fine. But it's a not to exceed, and under the contract, it's pretty form language. There's not anything earth shattering here, but
What's the time scope
Okay.
of this contract?
So they have different phases, but they don't put like a date. So, a date that each phase will be completed. And my understanding, that's pretty typical of when it's this early in the process, only because, you don't know when you're gonna, when they're going to get each piece of it done. There's going to be, we're going to have feedback from the Village of Lisle, because this is in the Village of Lisle. The zoning and permitting is going to be through them. So they have the different phases blocked out, and then the compensation is set up for those phases. I understood this to be that that it was going to be paid in the phases, is my understanding. And then any expenses would be invoiced separately.
Can we gather all that phase information, square footage prior to? I mean, isn't that necessary in order to accept this resolution?
So normally, in architectural services, every other person that we had interviewed with was doing a by hour, and we would have been already tens of thousands of dollars into it just to get to these design pieces, just to present, to figure out some grants and to figure out our options. And so every other firm was literally tens of thousands up to this point. So I think that's where the competition was. Right now, again, we've paid $1 for I don't know how many, I don't know how many different iterations and renderings.
This does state that it's like they're expecting a lump sum, so that would need to be clarified.
And
And it doesn't say before or after. I'm assuming you would like before.
And are you ruling out every other option? So you're ruling out the consideration for that?
And so an architect would be needed to, frankly, to expand if we were looking to expand in any way, shape, or form. And we're not ruling out anything. But again, in order to move forward, one piece is very much needed in order to move forward with Doug, and that is getting a piece of legislation passed at a town hall.
Which is a few months ago.
Mhm. Okay, does anybody, we're still on this township proposal. Is there a motion? Normally we go through the process of having the motion, the second, and then discussion. And going forward from there with the roll call vote after that. So is there a motion on the table? Or is there not?
That's a question.
Of course.
Is if we approve this resolution for you said 130,000, not 150,000, or 120 rather, is that
Yeah,
30,000 credit?
That's fine.
Does that mean we're done with the decision on building? Then that means we are not considering using an existing, that means that we are solely going with a building to be built.
We are very far away from getting to that point. So
Okay.
this, considering, or this approval does not negate any other options. Am I correct, Attorney Wysocki?
It doesn't negate any other options. If, I think what I'm hearing though, and I'm fine with doing this if this is the board's instruction, is to make it clear in the contract. We can revise it to include kind of a permission to proceed with each phase. So that would give us more control over the phases. I mean, they have that, they'll communicate with the staff during the project and so forth, but if you want a, some sort of authority to proceed with the next phase, so when they reach a milestone, they then have to get authority for the next phase. It means that you'll see it a lot more often. So it's up to you, really.
Yeah.
But we can build I mean, that's a pretty simple paragraph to stick in here. I don't know, I don't speak for Studio GC, so I don't know if that's amenable to them, but I mean, they sound like they're fairly easy to work with. So I'm willing to reach out to them, ask if they would do that type of phasing, just to make sure that you guys approve each step of the way about what's the not to exceed. That's what I'm hearing, I think
Well,
is what.
just to report, to talk about it in public, it makes it a lot more, well, this is what I see and this is what I hear, but I would like that.
Yeah, we can, okay, so then what I would, I don't mean to kick all your agenda items to the next meeting, but what I typically do is I don't like this board to approve a contract that's not approved by the other side. Only because then you have to approve it multiple times as the negotiations go on. So what I propose is that I can reach out to Studio GC and, propose some language. We'll work on some sort of phase, that they have to come back at the end of each phase. I'll rewrite the resolution to reflect that, and then we can have it on the 8th.
But do you want them to go into any phases? Do you know for sure that?
I
you're
just
gonna
don't think
build?
this is clear enough. So if we do alter a building, we're still paying the AE proposal in a lump sum
But
for
that number
$150.
might
I
change
think that's what's gonna change.
if you agree to this, yes, but do you know what I mean? I think that would have a whole nother proposal because the scope of work is gonna be completely different. And the amount of money they charge is based off of the scope of
Yeah.
the project.
Right.
Yeah, it's a percentage
Yeah.
of
You
the
know,
project.
So I don't
it's like
know.
premature to be doing this.
So I
if you
think
ask me.
I would want more. I mean, today, we were a little surprised today with square footage, or we just don't know all the details yet as a
So-
whole.
So I think
So
it's a
we're
little,
working with them.
I think it's a little chicken egg, we're getting into that. They can't provide that information until they have a
We sign.
contract. So that's why.
But today we had another curveball,
It-
so
No,
we're not, I know I'm not
understand.
feeling
No,
absolutely
no.
sure, and I thought I was.
Okay, so I think that, going through this with them, maybe we can put divide the design development up. I can see if they would do that. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know, because I'm not an architect. I don't know what that involves really. Other than my knowledge from other contracts. But I think that what I'm hearing is you want more control over when the funds are spent. That can be done with the phasing, and a right to terminate at any point. But I don't want to, I just want to caution you that, to get to a point where you can make a decision, you're going to need to spend some
Agree.
money. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot more for your dollar.
The one time.
Yeah.
The other question would be that
Mhm.
if we don't move forward with him at all, what's our obligation? Yeah, I know we paid him $1, but I don't remember, like, are we going to be on the hook for some money? Like the 30,000 or not?
So, yeah, we can clarify that, like when the lump sum is paid, and just clarify that he needs approval for each step.
No,
Is that-
I mean, we paid him $1. If we don't use his services, the work that he's done up to
Oh,
this point
up
has been $1, but because they've credited the 30,000, I'm
I-
on the hook for any more other money, right? If we don't use his services.
I don't know, so that's, I understand your question.
And we may have, I don't have the resolution that we signed. So, so if we have that from initial, if I could get that, it would probably answer it.
And that proposal is based on the cost of fees.
Right.
I think we heard tonight. this morning.
Right.
We don't know the cost, sir, and that's what I said very clearly, is that we
There's-
don't know because we haven't decided on any kind of design yet. So we haven't yet been able to ascertain a cost yet.
So if it
Somehow
doubles,
they
There's
got
language in
$200.
there for modification.
Right, but.
But that's it, yeah.
so it could be double.
Right.
Yeah, right, because if 2 million gives 150.
Supervisor Hughes, if I recall, I was at the meeting with you at the county, and if I'm not misremembering, did the county require the funds for projects that the townships had to have the funds for the projects ready?
Yes.
Yeah. And they had to prove that's what thank you.
So the question was that with that was, should it be in the capital improvements or just, does it have to be in the bank? account?
No, did
That was
it have to be in
earlier
the,
question.
in the bank account, right?
In the bank account.
Did it have to be, did we as a township had to prove to the county that we had the funds for the project before they would give us the grant money?
That's the other thing. I don't have any of the papers on that, so I need copies of all that for the files too. So we could easily look through them too. That's part of the contracts.
Okay, is there a motion to table resolution, whatever this is, until
Number
The-
2023
February 8th, I'm
07.
sorry.
I'll make a motion
Yeah.
to table resolution number 2023-007
Mhm.
until our next board meeting on February 8th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, and then a roll call vote.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Geist?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes. Okay, and then to be sure that all public comments have been answered or public comments have been addressed, I just refresh this. There are 0 public comments. Is there any other public comments in the audience? There's one more.
You might wanna, you might wanna ask again, because she was in the waiting room, right?
Are there
Yeah.
any other public comments from the audience? Okay, and then right now it's 10:05, the supervisor's report. I'll just postpone to the next meeting. Is there a call for an adjournment? Anyone? would
I'll
like
make
to
a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, trustee Page, and
Well, second.
thank you, trustee
Before we adjourn,
McGovern.
I'd like to
Any,
point out, that I
Just-
think what you did by not allowing the public to speak and changing the order of the agenda is unconscionable.
thank you, Highway Commissioner.
I'd like to add one last thing as well. I would like to thank each of the trustees for the ability to speak candidly with you, and I appreciate your listening and the results. Appreciate it. And I thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And any other discussion before we take the roll call vote from the trustees? And a roll call vote?
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Geist?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes.